Wealth does not begin with money, connections, or timing. It begins with mental discipline. Every financial outcome, good or bad, is the result of repeated decisions made over time, and decisions are controlled by the mind. An undisciplined mind reacts emotionally, seeks comfort, avoids pressure, and chases short-term relief. A disciplined mind thinks long-term, tolerates discomfort, and acts with intention even when the outcome is uncertain. This difference alone separates those who build wealth from those who spend their lives blaming circumstances. Most people believe opportunity creates wealth. In reality, opportunity only rewards those mentally prepared to handle it. Without discipline, opportunity becomes wasted potential. People receive chances all the time, business ideas, job offers, partnerships, investments, but their mindset determines whether they act decisively or hesitate until the moment passes. A weak mind delays, overthinks, and waits for perfect conditions. A disciplined mind understands that clarity comes after action, not before it. Mental discipline is the ability to control impulses. In business and money, impulses are expensive. Overspending, emotional investing, quitting too early, chasing trends, avoiding hard conversations, and refusing to make tough decisions all come from lack of mental control. The market does not forgive emotional behavior. It rewards consistency, logic, and execution. When your mind is undisciplined, your finances will always reflect chaos no matter how much you earn. Wealth building requires the ability to delay gratification. That is a mental skill, not a motivational one. Saving instead of spending, reinvesting instead of showing off, working instead of relaxing, and learning instead of consuming entertainment all require mental discipline. Most people know what they should do. They simply don't have the mental strength to do it consistently. Knowledge without discipline produces nothing. Fear is one of the biggest enemies of wealth, and fear lies entirely in the mind. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of success, all of it shapes financial behavior. People stay in low-paying jobs, avoid entrepreneurship, refuse to scale, or underprice their value because their mind prioritizes safety over growth. A disciplined mind acknowledges fear but does not obey it. It moves forward anyway, understanding that risk is not optional in wealth creation. Emotional control is another pillar of mental discipline. Markets go up and down, businesses experience wins and losses, cash flow fluctuates. An undisciplined mind panics during downturns and becomes reckless during success. A disciplined mind stays calm in both. It doesn't celebrate too early or collapse too fast. This emotional stability allows better decisions under pressure, which compounds over time into financial advantage. Mental discipline also determines focus. Wealth is built through sustained effort in one direction. An undisciplined mind jumps from idea to idea, strategy to strategy, and opportunity to opportunity, never staying long enough to master anything. This creates the illusion of productivity while producing very little. A disciplined mind commits. It blocks out noise, ignores distractions, and executes relentlessly. Over time, this focus creates skill, reputation, and income. Self-talk plays a major role in financial outcomes. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes your financial identity. If your internal dialogue is filled with doubt, limitation, and excuses, your actions will align with that identity. Statements like, "I'm not ready, I need more information," or "this isn't the right time," sound rational, but they often mask fear. A disciplined mind speaks with authority and direction, reinforcing action rather than avoidance. Wealth also demands responsibility, and responsibility begins in the mind. An undisciplined mind looks for external reasons: economy, competition, upbringing, luck. A disciplined mind takes ownership. Ownership creates power because it forces adaptation. When you accept that your results are tied to your thinking, you regain control. Blame removes control. Discipline restores it. Consistency is impossible without mental discipline. Anyone can work hard for a week or a month. Wealth requires years of consistent behavior. Showing up when you're tired, staying patient when results are slow, and continuing when motivation fades all demand a trained mind. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Mental discipline is also what allows learning from failure instead of being crushed by it. Financial setbacks are inevitable. Deals fall apart. Investments fail. Businesses struggle. An undisciplined mind takes failure personally and retreats. A disciplined mind extracts lessons and adjusts. This ability to recover quickly is one of the most valuable wealth-building traits. Ultimately, money is attracted to clarity, confidence, and consistency, all products of a disciplined mind. People trust disciplined thinkers, investors back them, partners work with them, employees follow them. Opportunities flow toward those who demonstrate control under pressure. Without mental discipline, even large amounts of money will disappear. With it, even smaller resources can be multiplied. Wealth is not created by wishing, hoping, or waiting. It is built by minds that are trained to think clearly, act decisively, and remain steady under stress. When mental discipline becomes your standard, wealth stops feeling like a mystery and starts becoming a natural outcome of how you think and operate every day. An undisciplined mind is one of the most expensive liabilities a person can carry, especially in business and money. It quietly creates mistakes that don't always show up immediately but compound over time into lost opportunities, broken momentum, and financial stress. Many people believe that lack of capital, connections, or intelligence holds them back. Yet the real issue is often poor mental control. When the mind is not trained, every decision becomes reactive instead of strategic, and reactive decisions always cost more in the long run. In business, mistakes are unavoidable, but the kind of mistakes you make matters. An undisciplined mind produces emotional mistakes rather than calculated ones. These include entering deals without proper thought because of excitement, walking away too early because of fear, overspending to impress others, or refusing to cut losses because of ego. Each of these behaviors drains money, time, and credibility. Over time, they create a pattern of instability that makes growth almost impossible. One of the clearest signs of an undisciplined mind is inconsistency. Inconsistent effort leads to inconsistent results. A person might work intensely for a short period, then disappear when things become uncomfortable or boring. In business, this inconsistency damages trust. Clients, partners, and employees rely on predictability. When your behavior changes based on mood or emotion, people hesitate to depend on you. That hesitation translates into fewer opportunities and slower growth. Another costly effect of mental undiscipline is poor decision timing. Acting too fast without thinking or waiting too long out of fear both come from the same problem, lack of control. Some people chase every opportunity because they can't resist excitement. Others analyze endlessly because they can't tolerate uncertainty. Both behaviors lead to financial loss. A disciplined mind knows when to move and when to pause based on logic rather than emotion. Distraction is another silent expense. An undisciplined mind struggles to focus, constantly pulled by notifications, trends, opinions, and comparisons. In today's world, distraction is easy, but in business, focus is money. Every hour wasted on low-value activity is an hour not spent building skill, improving systems, or strengthening relationships. Over time, this loss of focus becomes a massive financial leak that most people never measure. Emotional reactions during pressure situations are especially damaging. Negotiations, conflicts, and setbacks test mental control. An undisciplined mind reacts defensively, aggressively, or emotionally, often saying or doing things that damage long-term interests. Losing composure in a negotiation can cost better terms. Reacting emotionally to criticism can burn bridges. Panicking during setbacks can lead to rushed decisions that worsen the situation. Discipline allows calm thinking when it matters most. Another expensive mistake created by an undisciplined mind is the inability to delay gratification. Many financial problems stem from choosing short-term pleasure over long-term gain, spending profits instead of reinvesting, relaxing instead of scaling, and seeking comfort instead of improvement, all slow progress. While these choices may feel harmless in the moment, they dramatically limit future income. Wealth requires the ability to sacrifice now for greater returns later, and that sacrifice is mental before it is financial. Self-sabotage is also rooted in mental undiscipline. When things start going well, some people unconsciously create problems. They miss deadlines, avoid responsibility, or make reckless decisions because success brings pressure and higher expectations. An undisciplined mind seeks familiarity, even if that familiarity is struggle. This behavior prevents people from reaching their full financial potential. Lack of mental discipline also affects learning. Business requires continuous improvement. Markets change, technology evolves, and strategies become outdated. An undisciplined mind resists feedback, avoids uncomfortable truths, and prefers excuses over growth. This resistance keeps people stuck using old methods while competitors adapt and move ahead. Over time, staying mentally rigid becomes financially dangerous. Risk management is another area where mental discipline matters. Some people avoid all risk, which keeps them small. Others take reckless risks, which leads to collapse. Both extremes come from poor mental control. A disciplined mind evaluates risk objectively, understands probabilities, and accepts losses as part of the process without becoming emotional. This balanced approach protects capital while still allowing growth. Perhaps the most damaging effect of an undisciplined mind is loss of credibility. In business, credibility is currency. When your decisions appear impulsive, inconsistent, or emotionally driven, people hesitate to trust you with money, leadership, or responsibility. Rebuilding credibility takes far more effort than maintaining it, and many people never recover from early mistakes caused by lack of discipline. Over time, these small mental errors stack up. One bad decision rarely destroys a business or career, but repeated undisciplined choices slowly erode progress. Missed opportunities, wasted energy, strained relationships, and financial instability become the norm. Meanwhile, disciplined thinkers with similar resources continue moving forward, not because they are smarter, but because they manage their mind better. Money responds to structure, clarity, and consistency. An undisciplined mind creates chaos, and chaos repels wealth. When mental discipline is absent, even good opportunities turn into expensive lessons. When it is present, mistakes become manageable, learning accelerates, and progress becomes predictable. The difference is not luck or talent, it is control over the mind that drives every financial outcome. Emotional control is not a soft skill or a personality trait, it is a hard business skill that directly impacts money, decisions, and long-term success. In business, emotions are always present, but they should never be in charge. When emotions lead, logic follows late, and late logic is expensive. The market does not reward how you feel. It rewards how you decide and how you act under pressure. Most business problems escalate because emotions are mishandled. Anger leads to rushed decisions, fear leads to missed opportunities, ego leads to unnecessary conflict, and insecurity leads to poor negotiation. None of these issues are about lack of knowledge. They are about lack of emotional control. Two people can face the same situation with the same information, and the one who manages emotions better will almost always produce the superior outcome. In negotiations, emotional control is critical. When emotions spike, people reveal weakness, getting defensive when challenged, becoming aggressive when pressured, or appearing desperate when seeking a deal shifts power to the other side. Skilled negotiators stay calm, listen carefully, and respond strategically, even when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. This calm presence signals confidence and strength, often leading to better terms and stronger positioning. Losing emotional control in a negotiation can cost more than months of hard work. Decision-making under pressure is another area where emotional control separates professionals from amateurs. Businesses full of uncertainty, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. When emotions take over, decisions become reactive instead of deliberate. Reacting emotionally often means choosing relief over results, comfort over progress, and short-term escape over long-term gain. A controlled mind pauses, evaluates options, and chooses based on impact rather than impulse. Leadership demands emotional control because people mirror the emotional state of those in charge. If a leader panics, the team panics. If a leader becomes angry, the environment becomes tense. If a leader is inconsistent emotionally, trust erodes. Strong leaders create stability by staying composed, especially during difficult moments. This stability allows teams to focus on execution rather than uncertainty. Emotional control in leadership is not about suppressing feelings, but managing how they're expressed and when. Business relationships also depend heavily on emotional discipline. Conflicts are inevitable, but how they are handled determines whether relationships strengthen or collapse. An emotionally uncontrolled response can turn a small disagreement into a permanent separation. Saying the wrong thing in the heat of the moment can damage trust that took years to build. Emotionally disciplined individuals address issues directly but calmly, protecting long-term interests rather than seeking short-term emotional satisfaction. Stress is a constant companion in business, and emotional control determines whether stress sharpens or destroys performance. Without control, stress leads to burnout, poor judgment, and physical exhaustion. With control, stress becomes a signal to prioritize, adapt, and improve systems. High performers do not eliminate stress, they manage their emotional response to it. They use pressure as fuel rather than letting it become poison. Fear is one of the most common emotions that sabotage business success. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of loss cause hesitation and avoidance. These behaviors look like caution, but they are often disguised emotional weakness. Emotional control allows a person to acknowledge fear without obeying it. It creates the ability to move forward despite uncertainty, which is essential because certainty rarely exists in business. Ego is another emotion that quietly damages results. Ego-driven decisions prioritize being right over being effective. This leads to refusing advice, ignoring data, and doubling down on bad strategies to protect self-image. Emotional control keeps ego in check, allowing learning, adaptation, and correction. Businesses fail not because leaders lack confidence, but because they lack the emotional maturity to admit mistakes and change direction. Emotional spending is also a major financial issue. Buying things to feel successful, investing to impress others, or making flashy moves for validation often leads to poor financial outcomes. These decisions are driven by emotion rather than strategy. Controlled thinkers allocate resources based on return, not image. Over time, this discipline creates sustainable growth instead of temporary appearances of success. Criticism and feedback test emotional control more than success does. In business, feedback is unavoidable and often uncomfortable. Emotionally uncontrolled individuals take feedback personally and react defensively, missing valuable information. Controlled individuals separate ego from evaluation, using feedback to improve performance. This ability to absorb criticism without emotional collapse accelerates growth and sharpens competitive advantage. Consistency is one of the most valuable traits in business and is built on emotional regulation. Showing up with stable energy, clear thinking, and predictable behavior builds trust with partners, clients, and teams. Emotional volatility creates uncertainty, and uncertainty repels opportunity. People prefer to work with those who remain steady regardless of circumstances. Ultimately, money flows toward clarity, confidence, and reliability. Emotional control creates all three. It allows clear thinking under pressure, confident action despite uncertainty, and reliable behavior over time. Businesses do not fail only because of bad ideas. They fail because emotions override discipline at critical moments. Mastering emotional control does not remove challenges, but it ensures that challenges are met with strategy instead of impulse, which is the foundation of lasting business success. Consistency is the invisible force behind every major business win, yet it is one of the least glamorous skills to build. Most people admire big outcomes, but underestimate the boring, repetitive actions that create them. In business, talent may open the door, but consistency is what keeps it open. Without it, even the best ideas collapse under their own weight. Many people confuse motivation with consistency. Motivation is emotional and temporary, while consistency is behavioral and disciplined. Relying on motivation leads to uneven effort, strong starts followed by long gaps of inactivity. Business does not reward intensity followed by absence. It rewards steady execution over time. Markets, customers, and systems respond to reliability, not bursts of enthusiasm. Consistency builds trust, and trust is currency in business. Clients trust businesses that deliver on time every time. Investors trust founders who execute predictably. Teams trust leaders who show up with the same standards regardless of mood or circumstances. When your actions are consistent, people can plan around you. When they can plan around you, they are willing to commit resources, money, and energy Inconsistent behavior creates hidden costs, missed deadlines, fluctuating quality, and unpredictable communication slowly erode credibility. Each small inconsistency may seem harmless, but together they form a reputation that limits growth. Opportunities often disappear quietly when people decide you are unreliable without ever explaining why. Consistency prevents these silent losses. Skill development in business also depends on consistency. Sales, negotiation, leadership, and strategy are not mastered through occasional effort. They require repeated practice, reflection, and refinement. Inconsistent practice leads to shallow competence, while consistent practice creates depth. Over time, this depth compounds into an advantage that competitors struggle to match. Financial discipline is another area where consistency matters more than intensity. One good month does not create wealth, and one bad month does not destroy it. What matters is repeated smart allocation of money, reinvesting profits, controlling expenses, and managing cash flow with discipline. Inconsistent financial habits lead to instability even with high income. Consistent habits create stability even during downturns. Consistency also protects against emotional decision making. When actions are guided by systems rather than feelings, results become more predictable. A consistent routine removes the need to debate whether to act. The decision has already been made in advance. This reduces mental fatigue and prevents emotional interference, especially during stressful periods. In leadership, consistency sets the cultural tone. Teams perform better when expectations are clear and stable. When rules change based on mood or pressure, or confusion spreads, employees waste energy trying to read the leader instead of focusing on performance. Consistent leadership creates psychological safety, which improves productivity and accountability. Marketing and brand building rely heavily on consistency as well. A consistent message, presence, and value proposition build recognition over time. Businesses that constantly change direction confuse their audience. Consistency allows the market to understand who you are, what you offer, and why you matter. This clarity increases conversion and loyalty. Consistency does not mean rigidity. It means showing up daily to execute the core actions that drive results while adjusting strategy intelligently when data demands it. The discipline is in continuing the process, not clinging blindly to outdated tactics. Strong businesses evolve, but they do so consistently, not chaotically. The compound effect of consistency is often underestimated because progress appears slow at first. Early efforts may not produce visible results, leading many to quit prematurely. However, consistency works quietly, stacking small improvements into significant outcomes. Those who quit early never experience this compounding effect, while those who persist suddenly appear lucky when results finally accelerate. Consistency also builds self-trust. Each time you follow through on commitments, confidence strengthens this. Internal trust fuels bigger decisions and bolder moves. Inconsistent behavior weakens self-belief, making future commitments harder to keep. Over time, this internal instability limits growth more than external obstacles ever could. In competitive environments, consistency often beats brilliance. A competitor who executes average strategies consistently will outperform a competitor who executes great strategies sporadically. Markets reward dependability because it reduces risk. When people know what to expect from you, they are more willing to engage repeatedly. Ultimately, consistency is not about perfection. Mistakes will happen, energy will fluctuate, and conditions will change. What matters is returning to the process quickly and refusing to disappear when things become uncomfortable. This persistence signals seriousness, professionalism, and resilience. Business success is rarely the result of one dramatic move. It is built through thousands of small, disciplined actions performed repeatedly over time. Consistency turns effort into momentum, momentum into trust, and trust into long-term results. Those who master it separate themselves quietly but permanently from those who rely on motivation alone. Fearful thinking is one of the most expensive habits in business and life, yet it often hides behind words like caution, realism, and patience. At its core, fearful thinking is the tendency to prioritize safety over progress, certainty over opportunity, and comfort over growth. While it may feel responsible in the moment, over time it produces predictable, average results because it limits action, scale, and ambition. Fear shapes decisions long before results appear. It influences which opportunities people pursue, which risks they avoid, and which goals they never set. When fear dominates thinking, decisions are made to avoid loss rather than to create gain. This mindset leads to smaller moves, slower execution, and constant hesitation. In competitive environments, this is a disadvantage because markets reward those who act decisively while others are still calculating worst-case scenarios. Many people believe fear keeps them safe, but in reality it often keeps them stagnant. Avoiding risk does not eliminate danger. It simply replaces visible risks with hidden ones. The risk of not growing, not adapting, and not seizing opportunities compounds quietly. Businesses that play too safe lose relevance. Individuals who avoid discomfort lose momentum. And careers stall without a clear reason. Fearful thinking rarely causes sudden failure. It causes slow decline. In business, fear shows up as overplanning and underacting. Endless research, excessive meetings, and constant revisions are often symptoms of fear disguised as preparation. While planning is necessary, fearful thinkers use it as a shield to delay commitment. They wait for perfect conditions that never arrive. Meanwhile, competitors move forward with imperfect information, learn faster, and capture market share. Fear also limits financial outcomes by encouraging short-term thinking. Fearful individuals prioritize immediate security over long-term growth. They avoid reinvesting profits, hesitate to hire talent, and delay expansion because of uncertainty. These choices may reduce stress temporarily, but they cap potential. Growth requires tolerance for uncertainty, and those unwilling to accept it remain trapped within narrow limits. One of the most damaging effects of fearful thinking is self-imposed ceilings. People unconsciously decide what level of success feels safe or acceptable, then adjust their actions to stay within that boundary. When opportunities exceed this internal comfort zone, fear intervenes with excuses and rationalization. This creates a pattern where potential is never fully explored and results remain average despite capability. Fear also distorts perception. It magnifies risks while minimizing rewards. A fearful mind focuses on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. This imbalance leads to overly conservative decisions that fail to account for upside. Successful individuals are not fearless. They simply assess risk realistically rather than emotionally. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but missed opportunities can be permanent. In leadership, fearful thinking weakens authority and direction. Leaders who fear criticism avoid making bold decisions. Leaders who fear failure avoid innovation. Leaders who fear conflict tolerate underperformance. Over time, this creates weak cultures where mediocrity feels safe and excellence feels risky. Teams take cues from leadership, and when fear drives decisions at the top, it spreads throughout the organization. Fearful thinking also impacts communication, and people hold back ideas, avoid difficult conversations, and delay feedback because they fear rejection or confrontation. These avoided conversations often grow into larger problems. Clear, timely communication requires emotional courage. Without it, misunderstandings multiply, performance declines, and trust erodes. On a personal level, fear shapes identity. Repeatedly choosing safety over challenge conditions, the mind to see itself as limited. Confidence erodes not from failure, but from avoidance. Each time fear dictates behavior, it reinforces the belief that growth is dangerous. Over time, this belief becomes self-fulfilling, keeping results small and predictable. Average results are not caused by lack of intelligence or resources. They are caused by patterns of thought that restrict action. Fearful thinking narrows options and reduces experimentation. Without experimentation, learning slows. Without learning, improvement stalls. This chain reaction explains why many people remain stuck at the same level for years despite effort. Markets do not reward fear. They reward problem solving, speed, and bold execution. While reckless behavior is dangerous, calculated risk is necessary. Those who understand this balance outperform those who wait for guarantees. Fearful thinkers wait for validation before acting, but validation often comes only after action. Breaking free from fearful thinking requires awareness and discipline. Fear cannot be eliminated, but it can be managed. High performers acknowledge fear without allowing it to dictate decisions. They act based on data, strategy, and long-term vision rather than emotional comfort. This shift expands capacity and raises standards. Ultimately, fearful thinking produces average results because it keeps behavior within familiar boundaries. Growth demands stepping beyond what feels safe. Those willing to tolerate discomfort gain access to opportunities others never reach. Over time, this willingness compounds into experience, confidence, and results that separate leaders from followers and excellence from mediocrity.